this problem is to find the area between the curves y equals the square root of x and y equals x squared. So to start doing a problem like that, the first step, step 1, is to graph it. So you would start by drawing your graph, and then you would graph x squared, just a basic graph so we know what it looks like, and y equals the square root of x. So the area you want to find is right here. And to do that, you're going to do top minus bottom because that's easier and you can differentiate with respect to x. So you need to find the points of intersection to be your limits. So that's step 2, is find the points of intersection. And to do that, you would set the two equations equal to each other. And you end up getting that x equals 0 or 1. So this point is 0, and when you plug in 0 for x, you get 0 for y as well. And this point is 1 as the x coordinate, and when you plug in 1, you see that y is also 1. So those are your 2 points that you would use. So step 3 is to set up the integral. So to do that, you would use the x coordinates from above, so that'd be 1 and 0. So 1 goes on the top since it's the higher number, and 0 goes on the bottom. And then, since you're differentiating with respect to x, you do top minus bottom. And never forget your dx at the end. So if you look at the graph, you can see that the top equation is the square root of x. So you'd put that in as the top, and then you can see that the bottom equation is x squared. So you'd put that as the second equation. So from when you've set up your integral, which, just as a reminder, was the square root of x minus x squared, then your next step is to solve the integral. So that would be step 4. So to solve the integral, you could either simply plug this into your calculator, or you could take the antiderivative and then solve. So we're going to show you how to take the antiderivative just as a base. So what you would do is take the antiderivative of the inside and then plug in the outside numbers. So to take the antiderivative, you add 1 to the power and multiply by its reciprocal. So for the square root of x, we're going to write it as x to the 1/2, just to make it easier to add 1. So you would add 1 to the 1/2 to get x to the 3/2, and then you'd multiply by the reciprocal, which is 2/3. And then for x squared, you'd add 1 to make it x to the 3rd, and then multiply by 1/3 because that's the reciprocal of 3. So this is your antiderivative, and then you would plug in 1 and 0 in order to solve it. So when you plug in 1, you get 2/3 of 1 to the 3/2 minus 1/3 of 1 to the 3rd. So this ends up being 2/3 minus 1/3 for an answer of 1/3. And then you subtract whatever 0 plugged in would be. So when you plug in 0, you just get 0. So 1/3 minus 0 would be your final answer, which equals 1/3. And your units for these problems are always going to be units squared because you're finding the area of a 2D object.